Welcome to the Culinary Treasure Podcast. I'm Steven Shomler, your host. Today finds me once again in my beloved state of Montana. I absolutely love when I get the opportunity to travel to Montana. And today I'm here with Chef Brandon Cunningham, the executive chef at the Greenough Resort. He has a really amazing story. What a joy to have you on the podcast, Brandon.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
So where were you born?
Auburn, Washington.
And where'd you go to high school?
Went down to Oregon for that. So Central Oregon, Redmond High School, home of the Panthers.
Redmond. Okay, I have a good friend, Brian Yeager, dear friend who's a beer writer, lives in Redmond now.
Okay.
And so you have grade school, really. You started kind of cooking, kind of say that euphemistically, but tell me about some of the cool things you cooked when you were in grade school.
Yeah, so I think I would say that it all kind of started with what I perceived as the blank canvas as spaghetti sauce. Humble beginnings for sure, but I remember just taking everything I could out of the kitchen cupboards and just kind of throwing it together, and from sugar to oregano to black pepper, and probably some pretty wacky things in there, I'm sure at some point. Probably threw some cumin in there, but it just felt kind of fun for me to just create something, and begrudgingly I'm sure my family ate it, but it felt nice to kind of do something like that and create, I guess, something from nothing almost. And I don't know if these two are related, but I do have a fond memory of winning the fair. There's a baking contest at the Kitsap County Fair. For my age group, I made a pineapple upside down cake and got first place, and it's been all downhill since then. But
the Kitsap County Fair. Kitsap's a great county. That's a lot of fun places out there. That's
stiff competition, I'll tell you. But no, I mean, I don't have this crazy grand story of, cooking throughout my childhood years. There's a few moments in time, and then, we'll probably touch on it later, but a little bit later on, it took some time until my culinary drive sort of reared its head, and it came out of kind of nowhere.
Well, what I get out of it, I did some cooking like you when I was very young, and I remember we had very limited ingredients. My parents no clue about good food stuff. I remember making a tequila and coffee rub for my chicken, on fried chicken. And I'm just a kid, and I don't know if it tasted good or not, but I think that creativity, that kind of alchemy, I can imagine you're trying different flavors and stuff. You
had access to tequila as a kid.
Yeah. It wasn't a good childhood.
Sure,
I had access to all kinds of bad things.
I'm right there with you, trust me.
But yeah, that kind of that funness, and when I really see chefs do fun things creatively, like that guajillo ketchup that I had today. Sure. I don't know what's in. I don't know if it's mace or cumin, but there's something. There's that a little bit of clove and allspice. Yeah, it's just something that was so amazing, and that you just elevate ketchup. And I love to look for where chefs do that, and I bet that creativity was in you even when you're making spaghetti.
It must have been there, right? Exactly. And that's one thing that I do. I do like to just take kind of run of the mill things and do it and elevate on that, just because there's a memory of it there, but it doesn't take much to just kind of twist it up a little bit, And I'll be honest with you, I was hesitant to even do a ketchup because I am of the firm mind that I don't want anyone's artisanal ketchup. I don't want your apricot curried ketchup or anything like that. But that's why I serve Hunt's or Heinz to keep it, original. But when we're doing the hash brown, that was inspired by McDonald's hash brown patties. And what do you dip your hash brown patty in is ketchup when you get it. And so I wanted to evoke that same sort of thing, but I can't just, I got to do a little bit of a twist on it. And so I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, jumping ahead. I shouldn't, but I will. But your food is amazing to eat. And I have so many incredible, beautiful photos. When we write our food articles, I'll have just a gazillion photos. But those potatoes, they look so pretty, and they tasted fantastic. Yes. And I totally get the riff on the McDonald's. Right. I mean, I have I call them, and I don't have guilty pleasures, I have shameless pleasures. Yes. And McDonald's hash browns are one of them.
100%.
A McDonald's double cheeseburger is one of them. I have these shameless pleasures, a Jack in the Box.
Your mind's going to be blown tonight for dinner.
Okay, fantastic. I'm excited. Okay, so like a lot of amazing chefs I know, you had just an incredible first job in the culinary world. You're a sophomore in college.
Yep.
You had a buddy with 2 jobs. Tell me that story.
So, I went to college looking to major in history, maybe psychology, so took courses in both. Had a great first year, and did my fair share of partying and all that fun stuff, but looking to buckle down and start working, as well as going to through my sophomore year of college. And painted houses for a living with one of my good friends at the time, and we ended up living in a garage together. That sounds as iconic of a college upbringing as possible, but I needed a job after, the painting job had ended, and he did have two jobs. He was a pizza delivery guy as well as a dishwasher at one of the more popular restaurants at the time down there in Ashland, Oregon. And I took some of my painting money that I had earned, and I offered him $250 for one of his two jobs. And he took the easy way out and, decided to keep the pizza delivery gig for himself and offered me the dishwashing job. So I paid him $250, walked into Catwalk was the restaurant at the time, walked in there for his scheduled shift and just said, I'm here to replace my buddy, and that was it. And so it's just started washing dishes that day, and I'm not even sure if I filled out W-2s or anything like that. It was pretty informal, and yeah, so that was my first introduction into the culinary world, and it was just as seedy as I ever imagined it would be, and kind of went from there.
Yeah, I have no belief that anybody in any industry needs to pay their dues and start at the bottom. But there's something beautiful, particularly it seems on the culinary side, when you start out in the dish pit.
Right.
There's just something, I don't know, elegant, and you kind of learn a lot as you go that serves you 10, 15 years later.
Well, there's the respect that I think that most stewards or dishwashers should get from the chefs, and that starts with, I think that in general, eventually chefs realize that position. If you came from culinary school right into a chef role or what have you, you eventually learn what that role entails. But if you started off in the dish pit, that's where you kind of started off getting your chips in. That just gives you more respect for what that position entails and the people who are operating within it.
Yeah, I helped a friend of mine, Michael. He went from a Hapa PDX food cart, helped him open Hapa restaurant, Hapa PDX, and then I helped him open up Hapa Kauai last fall. And it was so humbling and meaningful to me how well he treated his dishwasher. He's opening a brand new restaurant in Kauai, and same thing, because that dishwasher's gold.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, they're gold.
No, you make sure they're fed. You make sure that they get their breaks when they want them. And the biggest thing that I've noticed is you go in there and you start scrubbing pots and pans for a while. You have to kind of be part of the ranks there without a doubt, and that's going to get you the respect from them and kind of keep that mutual sort of symbiotic relationship going. Yep.
So you went from there, you started prepping, you started cooking, and eventually became the executive chef of this place.
Right.
Title only, right?
Title only, without a doubt. There's this story that this place was, to be honest, pretty poorly ran. All of the management there was buddies of mine that were in the same year or a year above me in college, but it was a bunch of college kids chefing and bartending and waiting, and it was hilarious.
And you had access to tequila.
100%. Oh yeah, and then some. AMFs. I was like 20 years old, and that was my go-to drink. And I don't think they ever carded me at all, and should have been a pretty clear sign when I was ordering AMFs for my shift drink that I wasn't even old enough to drink yet. But one of the funny stories, because we had carte blanche, whatever we wanted to do. I ended up doing a special one day. I got lobster tails in from Cisco. Never cooked lobster in my entire life. But I was reading Dickens at the time, and I wanted to do a play off of a Dickens novel. So I did A Tale of Two Lobsters. This is what I called this dish. And I don't remember what the dish was. Like, one was glazed in sweet chili or something. Who knows? But long story short, we didn't sell a single one. And so the staff ate like crazy on lobster tails. And that was just kind of the running sort of theme of that restaurant, is because it turned into a nightclub at night. And so that's where all the college kids went for the foam parties. And, it was insanity. So they made plenty of money off of that. And the food was just kind of there for whatever. But,
ancillary.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there wasn't much in the way of any sort of culinary sort of processes, if you will. It was pretty cut and dry. So, and
this next step in your journey, I feel like it's a bit of culinary inside baseball, but chefs who have the similar experience will I think appreciate this. You go to Callahan Mountain Lodge,
right,
on the Oregon-California border, and 22 years old, you're again the executive chef.
Yep.
And that's kind of no disrespect to you, but that's a name-only position.
100%.
And I know a lot of chefs who've had that where it almost is a disservice to them later.
Mm-hmm. yeah, I was again kind of a meteoric rise there from breakfast chef to sous chef to executive chef, and this place they did weddings. They were a $1 million a year property for sure, but the food was very outdated. Again, we got our hollandaise was powdered from Knorr, demi-glace was in the same boat. It was very, very old school, and I didn't know anything else. I didn't know anything better. I knew there was better out there, but I didn't know it. And so, I mean, this is obviously before Instagram and all this other stuff. And, it was what I knew is what I saw type of approach. But I had a feeling there was more out there. And so, yeah, I spent my time there and actually I learned a lot. I learned a lot of what not to do also. But Portland was beginning to call my name more and more, just because it was in the same state. It was close to home. And it was kind of the culinary mecca of a big chunk of the West Coast, if not just Washington and Oregon. It was calling to me for sure.
So at some point between your washing dishes, your first job, and then working at Cunningham Mountain Lodge, at some point your culinary fire must have started burning to where I want to be, again, no offense to what you've done, but a real chef. I want to know this stuff. I want to advance and I want to sharpen my axe and really move ahead.
Absolutely.
And so that fire must have been burning bright to say, I'm going to move all the way to Portland, Oregon.
And that was a big move, to go from south to north, essentially. Not really knowing what I was getting into, what sort of job I was going to be able to land. I had the experience, but it was minimal, at best.
And what a great situation for you. Portland's my home.
Yep.
And, there was a time where like the Portland food cart scene was the best and the culinary scene, and we had Feast. And I'm not saying Portland isn't one of the brightest stars in the culinary world in the United States, but for sure at one point it burned definitely bright, and everybody said that.
Absolutely.
And you arrived kind of at the beginning of that heyday.
Right.
So you probably got to learn from a lot of incredible chefs.
I did, and I worked at a lot of places. Definitely got my chops in. I was probably in, 12 to 15 different restaurants. I think I've narrowed my resume down to about 4 of those. But, my whole goal was to just work as many places as I could, not burn any bridges, but, try to get as much experience as I possibly could, find places that I could stick around for a while. But there are places where, the places I did stick around for were places I had more to learn from.
Yeah, I'll mention some of the places you mentioned. We chatted before we did the podcast because it's like an old school Portland Hall of Fame. I mean, some people that have recently visited Portland may not know these places, but I know someone I respect greatly, Gary the Foodie.
Yeah,
and that's really inside culinary baseball for Portland. But Gary the Foodie would know these places and maybe shed a tear for some of them. But Pock Pock and South Park and Ned Love and Blue Monk and Castagna. Yeah, just what a. We could go on and on, but wow, those are just what a joy to get to learn from all those places. Yeah. But there is 3 chefs. You spent about 10 years in Portland, and there was 3 chefs that really shaped your culinary journey. Talk to me about them.
Yeah, I think that I got a lot of restaurants kind of out of the way. I was still trying to hone in on, first of all, what I was looking for, what Portland had to offer, and I think Ned Ludd was probably the first restaurant. You mentioned the culinary fire. That was already there, but I think that he turned that into an inferno in some ways, for sure, because, no pun intended, that was a live fire restaurant. So Ned Ludd being of the Luddites, anti-technology, so everything was coming from the wood-fired hearth, or oven, rather. We made muffins, we did braises, we did all sorts of crazy stuff just in that oven. And so there was no other fire source or heat source at all. But that was Jason French over at Ned Ludd, and just his almost like romantic relationship with food and farmers. And I would see people coming in with dollies full of fresh produce, just still warm from the sun almost. It was insane to me, coming from a Callahan's or a Catwalk where the produce was coming in warm from the Cisco truck. Quite a different experience, but his approach was very simple, and you start off with good product and treat it minimally, with a little bit of kiss of fire here and there, and it was just very eye-opening how much you could do from one single flame. So that was really neat. That was one of the more informative parts of my career, without a doubt. And then moved on from that to and Castagna was up until its closing, I think the best fine dining restaurant in Portland. They had two different eras, if you will. There was Matt Leitner, who did his thing for quite a while, and then Justin Woodward took over, and that was before I got there. So it was Justin as the chef there, but I knew of Castagna from even from down in Ashland, and so that was where I had my eyes set on, was getting into that kitchen. And I think I was working at Old Salt at the time, and got a call. I had put in a resume to Castagna months ago, and they must have finally gotten down to the bottom of the stack maybe, and gave me a call. And I was ecstatic. I was ecstatic to just even go there and stage. I had to go buy a paring knife, and I was so ill-equipped to work in a kitchen of that caliber. And either way, I ended up getting the job, and worked from the Garmy to meat station. Ended up being the sous chef there for about a year, and different approach to food than Jason French. It's still, it's very methodical, very intentional. Obviously you start off with good product as well, but it's presented in a very elegant way. And that really spoke to me in a lot of ways, as well. But I still didn't think it was quite what I wanted to do ultimately in the long run. But that experience, and learning to just the discipline that I got from that kitchen was another invaluable that I took away, that I think is probably more valuable than anything else I learned from there, is just move quiet, move with grace, keep your towel folded. There's all those little things that I learned that will never leave me ever. And then, I spent some time there. I ended up meeting my wife there, actually, Erin. She had been there for many years before me. I was just a new guy, but she was vegetarian, and so whenever I made staff meal, I would always make her extra special stuff, and it worked out. We ended up getting married, had a kid, and then we'll kind of touch on that story a little bit later. But then Renata, opening up Renata as the CDC, that was a completely different experience for me. It was I met Matt Sigler, who is a very good friend of mine to this day still, and always will be. But that was, modern Italian. There's a hearth, there's a wood-burning oven. Matt came from some pretty big hitters down in San Francisco, and so he had a touch for the elegant, the fine dining, but also had a really deft hand with just amazing, slutty food, if you will, also. And so it was a fine balance between. And so I think all those three chefs, Jason French, Justin Woodward, and Matt Sigler, all have a huge part in kind of shaping where I am today.
Yeah, I just want to affirm the wisdom of your journey. If a lot of young people ask me now, if I want to go into culinary, what should I do? And one of the things is, if you can work for some different chefs, mm-hmm. you'll learn different things, and that will really help around and find your way.
Absolutely.
Because every chef, I think, that has kind of their way, their food, how they do it, but they've learned from people that each had their own path.
Right. Yep. Exactly. And so, I think we're all just an amalgamation of our experiences, and we try to find ways to differentiate ourselves. And I think that's the main challenge in cooking anymore is one, everything's been done already, right? For the most part, there's a lot of ways to push the envelope, and I don't want to push it any further than it's already gone. But it's about utilizing your experiences, and also execution. I think that's the biggest thing, because when everything has been done already, for the most part, there's you can still kind of find ways to pair ingredients together or this or that. But I think execution, more than anything else, is pivotal for chefs anymore. And that's what I've come to learn here, especially at Greenough, is, we're not reinventing anything at all. But it's execution, it's consistency that keeps us kind of pushing forward a little bit.
I don't know. I had some dishes last night that felt like some out of the park, beautiful. I don't know about reinvention, but definitely elevated some things that were phenomenal. Maybe we'll talk about that. But
well, thank you.
One of the things I teach people when I help them with life change, head where they want to go in their life, my life story alchemy work, is that the universe is pulling for you, but sometimes it happens ways you don't expect. So math is not my strong suit, but your son's 7 now.
Right.
So in 2018, I don't know, he's 1 or 2 or 3 years old. He's young. And your wife, Erin, has family in Montana.
Right.
You had no family in Portland.
Nope.
No support system. It's easier with kids to have positive relatives.
Right.
Some people have relatives that aren't so positive, but positive. And so I'm thrilled to hear Greenough, because last night, we'll talk about the meal last night.
Sure.
It blew my mind. But your wife had a role in you getting here.
Right. Right. So the life of a chef is obviously not one that keeps you at home as much as you'd like. And if you're a stay-at-home mom raising, essentially what is a newborn or moving into toddlerdom, it's tough for sure. I'm gone 12 to 14 hours a day, and I love the job I was at, but we felt our time in Portland kind of coming to an end. Mainly because, her family being from Montana, we need to get closer to support system and get our son Aiden closer to family. So he's kind of raised around that sort of environment. And I, with my day-to-day, applying for a new job and moving across what I thought felt like the country, because I never even been to Montana before, applying for a new job felt like quite a tall task. And one day I got an email from Chef Sonny, who I was familiar with at Allison.
So Chef Sonny in 2019 was the chef here at the Paws Up Resort.
Correct.
And he had worked down at the Allison, I think, in Newburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And so he kind of knew of your places. You got a call from him. You got a call from a chef in Montana while you're in Portland.
And I knew I was familiar with Sonny, without a doubt. Obviously, he wasn't familiar with me, but where I had worked at. But the email, it said, thank you for your application. Would love to get on the phone with you in the next 24, 48 hours, what have you. And I was a little bit bewildered and confused. And but I at that point, I knew, okay, my wife had applied for me on my behalf. And it worked out without a doubt, because that's the first conversation with Chef Sonny was what Paws Up is and where we're going. And Greenough at that point was a hole in the ground, but was very much in the works without a doubt. And I wasn't promised any sort of a role with Greenough, but it was almost like a carrot a little bit being dangled there. It said, this is an opportunity for the right person. And it gave me a little bit of an idea. Obviously it changed a lot from where it was initially to where we are now. But to have something to push and drive for, not to mention to keep my wife happy, that was it was enough for me to more than consider it. So we came out here and saw the property and stayed a couple nights and did some interviews, and I was in love for sure.
So 2019, you're out of Portland. You moved to middle of nowhere, Montana.
Yep.
We're not really in the middle of nowhere, but we are 45 minutes north of Missoula, roughly.
Yep.
And it is kind of middle of nowhere.
There's 2 gas stations between here and there. That's about it.
Yeah, and it is. But hey, that's common in everywhere in Montana.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
A beautiful place. So those that don't know, just Google Paws Up. It's a beautiful resort, families and lots of outdoor activities, etc. They even do glamping, in the summer, etc. But then Greenough and so you did that 2019, 2020. Greenough opened in 2021, and Greenough is the resort within the resort. It's 21 and over, no kids. You have 12 basically residents that people stay in. They come they gather together at the social house for meals. And so you opened that resort within a resort, the Greenough Social House, the food side. You opened it in 2021.
Correct. So I had a good chunk of time. Luckily, being having as much resources as Paws Up does, I was able to basically focus all my time and energy for about 6 months on opening up Greenough. And again, a lot of things changed since we first opened, but it was finally a chance for me to really show myself what I learned and what I'm capable of, from breakfast, lunch, dinner. This honestly, besides my 2 forays into executive chefdom in my late teens and early 20s, this is my first true executive chef role. And so it was, there was some pressure there for sure, but the opportunity to open up what is, I think, one of the coolest gigs in the country, because you're looking at, like you said, there's 24 guests maximum. That's it. No kids, so don't have to have, Tyson chicken tenders on standby at all times or what have you, although I would have those for myself. But it was an interesting sort of and a very enticing opportunity. And here we are today, 2.5 years removed from that. So,
well, I just want to celebrate what you've done. I recently did a podcast and I reflected and realized, I've not on the culinary side, but on the branding and marketing side, I've helped open restaurants. Like I've been there every night of the opening nights and done a bunch of pre-work. And and what I did, nothing compared to the chefs, right?
Sure.
And I feel like if you open a restaurant, you should get like a gold medal or a trophy or something. Right. So it's one amazing achievement to be a successful executive chef. It's a whole different level of complexity and I think accomplishment to open a restaurant successfully. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is both exhilarating and terrifying. I mean, hats off to you and your team that pulled it off.
Thank you. Yeah, it was quite the run, and you throw in the fact that it's a resort on top of that, and we're hosting the same guests for multiple nights at a time, and so that also led to menus and formatting, and we can't keep a static menu. Even like a seasonal week by week or quarter by quarter menu wouldn't fly here at all, because we've got to feed these guests every night.
Yeah, they want something different and interesting. Yep, and they're paying not insignificant funds to be here.
Definitely not.
But back to opening restaurant, I recorded a podcast with Chef Crystal Swenson, incredible pastry chef. So she was on your team to help you open the Greenough. I bet you use. And then last night I met Chef Phillip. I met Chef Bodie. You seem to attract really good people.
I've been lucky for sure.
I don't believe that for a moment.
Well, there's no doubt that we've got some very talented people, and like Crystal, for instance, came here to Greenough, proved that she was more than capable of running Greenough, but could do more even. So she kind of took over the role of the entire resort's executive pastry chef there. So it was really neat to see her, and between her and I, it felt natural. It felt like it was super easy, the way that we both kind of approached food. Our menus from first course to last course kind of, complemented each other quite a bit. And it was really neat. Yeah, she was here for just over a year, and then moved on to kind of a larger role. But I mean, it's a full-blown team effort without a doubt. The fact that we do change the menu every night, I don't have that much skill or talent to be able to, I can dictate it, but it's got to be executed.
So the Greenough is a resort that you travel to, you stay here, but it's also like you've made it an incredible culinary destination. I mean, really, people come bring some books, stay in your place, and come here for the meal. That alone is worth it. And the tasting menu, I absolutely love. Roughly 9 courses every night, and it's a different 9 courses every night. You may do riffs on things. You may have peaches one night and peaches the second night, but it'll be different riffs on peaches.
We try to do repeat ingredients, but I mean, if we're doing peaches on one, maybe dessert peach is in line. But even ingredients 2 days in a row, we try to avoid as well, and that's just our own integrity kind of coming through. But it's it changes every single night, and don't get me wrong, we've got 50 to 60 dishes in our repertoire that we cycle through, so it's not all complete magic, but it's but it definitely keeps us busy regardless.
Yeah, and I just have to give you just hats off, because I'm blessed. I get to travel a lot and eat a lot of amazing places, and this is now like in the top 3 now of best meals I've had in my life. My entire experience at Cayo Espanto, it's a private island resort off the coast of Belize, incredible there, and then Devin Finnegan, she's the executive chef in Maine, on the Maine coast, in the Stonington Isle, not a little island, but a good-sized island there. And she does a tasting menu every night. And her stuff, I can't even believe I'm saying this. It is equal to what I had last night. And I never thought I'd have another meal. And so just hats off to what you put together. I know that it rotates, but I just want to mention a couple of the things that I had last night, because they were so incredible. That first dish, the egg, I mean, just talk us through what was in that. I couldn't even take notes fast enough. Right. I just knew that was a little bite, and I wanted like 40 more of them.
Yeah, exactly. So keep them wanting more. It's celeriac and egg. So first off, our dinner menu pairs 2 ingredients together, and that's basically all you'll see for the menu for that course. Like, for instance, tonight's pork and sunchoke, and we're doing scallop, and oh boy, what are we doing there? Anyways, it's 2 ingredients that we pair together. There's a few reasons why we like to do it that way, chiefly because it keeps us focused on the 2 ingredients, and so we don't get too convoluted, and we don't start throwing too much on the plate at once. And then the second one, more cheeky, is just because it's a couple's resort, and we're coupling 2 things together. But so that was celeriac and egg, and So egg in many forms. It was kind of like it was a celeriac tart shell that we make just by basically kind of frying and molding sliced celeriac. And then we did an egg yolk jam, kind of a nice aerated fermented celeriac and chive, like creme fraiche, caviar on top of that. And then we did some grated cured egg yolk as well. And so, yeah, it's just a small little bite just to kind of get you started.
Yeah, it was like a perfect bite. I'm not going to talk through all 9 courses, but I just want to highlight a couple of them to give people a sense. Not that when you come in, you're going to get that dish, but I want you to get a sense of the kind of dishes you're going to get.
Absolutely.
I don't want to talk about too much, but that salmon and masa, like taco tostado, amazing. That was great. But the halibut and peppers, I tell you, that was a riff on I could tell it was a riff on a Peruvian dish.
Right.
I had, and no offense to anyone Peruvian, but it was like its own thing at the same time.
Sure.
Tell people about that dish, because that sauce and I never would have thought to go that way with halibut.
Right.
Just, you tell us about it.
So it's leche de tigre was kind of the inspiration for the sauce. Typically, you'll see at least the one that we make here. It's celery, cucumber, cilantro, jalapeno, a marinade for ceviche essentially. We decided to go with not a verde route, but more of a rojo route, and so we did basically a leche de tigre with red peppers. And so we've got Jimmy Nardello's, both fermented and raw. And then we've got the celery, the cilantro still worked into that as well. But it's just this kind of like, it's kind of hard to explain. It's sweet, sour, obviously salty. It's got all this stuff kind of bound in it at once. And whenever I think of like whitefish, especially with peppers, I think of Spanish food a lot too, when it comes to like, that sort of approach to it. And so halibut peppers makes a lot of sense there. We cooked it off in a smoked Jimmy Nardello oil. So Jimmy Nardello is one of my favorite peppers, one of my favorite vegetables in general. This would be a fruit, but we get in about 40 pounds of them. We dried them, we smoked them, dried them, and then we do a ton of stuff with that. So we made an oil out of it in this case, but cooked it off in the smoked Nardello oil. And then the habanada was kind of a fun little touch there. And so habanada being a not spicy at all habanero pepper, basically, that kind of brought some tropical, like floral notes to it as well. But it's a super simple dish. And that's a lot of our stuff is just very simple. It's just kind of a focus on the ingredients that we can get in and kind of manipulating one ingredient in multiple ways. And that's one way that the menu format helps us do that is because, if Chef Philip wanted to do a halibut and peppers, but then there's like a corn element on there, I'd like to get rid of that. It's halibut and peppers. And so instead of maybe pickled corn, there comes a pickled pepper or something like that, so it helps us take one ingredient and manipulate it in many different ways. So
yeah, I had the pickled pepper, and then you had the habanada, which is like, it looked like it was going to kill me on the plate because it looked like a habanero. Yep. But it like, okay, I trusted you, but like I took a bite carefully. Oh my gosh, this is so crazy and so good.
Parts of the habanero, unless you like super spicy, but without all of that.
Yeah, I don't need to die while I'm eating.
Exactly.
My wife can. She can sweat and eat and be happy. I'm not built that way.
Right.
And if you ever want like a side gig and you want to decide you want to sell nationwide that Jimmy Nardello oil, there you go. Yeah. Oh man, that dog would hunt. I would put that on, all kinds of things. That was ridiculous. And I no offense to dessert people, but desserts aren't usuly my thing. I'm savory. When I was a kid, when I was in my 20s, maybe have a brownie before I go. Now I want a pickle before I go to bed. If I want to eat something at once, my taste buds are totally different. But I had 2 really amazing ice creams last night, 2 different dishes. A nectarine ice cream.
Right.
So good. It was the nectarine and
strawberry.
Strawberry and the consomme, just over the top. And then a Marcona almond ice cream. Now, I love me Marcona almonds and whiskey.
Right.
To have it in an ice cream, that was phenomenal.
So that's Chef Bodie. He just actually produced yesterday, just kind of off the cuff a little bit, which a lot of our menus sometimes can be off the cuff. Like I said, we do have some rotational dishes, but a lot of the dinner menu, there's no recipes for it. It's just we're cooking because, I've got 6 guests who've seen this dish, but the other 4 haven't. So we have to kind of Tetris. It's kind of a crazy thing that we do, but that was off the cuff for him, and I tried that, and I had the same reaction you did. It was, I love chocolate peanut butter ice cream is my favorite, and so when you do a Marcona almond butter ice cream, I'm here for it. So it was fantastic.
So yeah, you come here, you stay at the Greenough. every night, be prepared. You got to build up to it to eat. And the other thing, okay, so I know that there's this smash burger on the snack menu,
right?
And a lot of people have written about it and like, oh, maybe I should try that, maybe I shouldn't. And I'm a couple of courses in, and I'm thinking, maybe I'll have room for that. I don't know. Maybe I'll be hungry. And someone said you got to get the pizza and take it back. And the pizza's so good. And I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. And by the time I got to like the last course, I could not eat another bite. And so you have to train to come here. You have to be ready to have some of the best food of your life. Yeah. And then don't be deceived by these little bites. They add up quick.
And you should have seen our menu about a year and a half ago. It was, I took a trip to Chicago for work actually, and ended up eating at Ever, Curtis Duffy's newest restaurant. And same kind of approach to food idea, not compare myself to him whatsoever, but about 9 courses, same size courses as well. And I'm a big dude, and oh my God, I was stuffed, absolutely stuffed. And so I came back after that trip, and I was like, we got to pare this down. We're putting these people through hell. Are you kidding me? Because I appreciate it. It's a compliment. They don't want to stop eating it, but God, these people are gonna keel over. And so we've pared it down quite a bit. I took about a third off of each course, because it's such a fine balance. It really is. There's a gal who can be 120 pounds and eat what you ate last night and still get a cheeseburger. Yep. Or there's big guys like us, and it depends on what you eat during the day. But no, the tasting menus are a fine balance. And if you're going to a restaurant and you're paying, this much per head, and you're going to eat all the food because you're there, it's like it's very visceral how much you just paid for this meal or about to pay. Whereas here, it's a la carte, right? You pay everything up front, and you don't have to pull out your card or wallet again for anything else. And so there's a little bit less pressure to eat all of the food, but I think people still feel like they need to go through and finish it off.
And I'll tell you about my pressure last night. It was terrible. Not common experience, because I can eat. I do this professionally,
right? And
so we're sitting up at the bar because you can sit in front of this beautiful fireplace. Go look at my pictures. If you go to culinary-treasure-podcast.com, I'll have pictures of this incredible fire you can sit around, or you can sit at the bar and watch you guys cook.
Right.
And I got to interact just a little. I don't want to be a nuisance, but a little bit with Bodie and you and Philip. And Philip just seems great, and he's nice. And I know he made the last course, this chocolate thing. And I'm like, I just can't finish it. And I want to. It's like, I'm going to need like a big shot of whiskey somehow to get this down. And I'm good there. And I felt so bad. Like, Bella's like, should I take it? And I go, yeah, but don't let Philip know I didn't eat it. I want him to think I didn't love it. But yeah, so come be prepared, have an incredible dinner. You've got breakfast we'll talk about in a second. Yep. But then depending on the day, it's different. Just go with the flow for your trip at lunch or a snack menu. So we show up yesterday, and Amy says, oh, you gotta have a snack, and she shows us a snack menu, and I'm looking at it, and Amy's super great, and she says, I'm looking at a couple things. The almonds look interesting. I'm going to get an old-fashioned. I love an old-fashioned, and old-fashioned almonds, that sounds great. Yep. And there's a couple other things, and Amy's like, you got to get the chips and dip. And I'm like, chips and dip? It's like, okay, fine. I've done this enough to know you listen to the people like Amy. Do what they say, or you're an idiot. What the hell is up with this chips and dip?
So sour cream and onion meets like a French onion dip. There's a theme that I like here that we often employ. It's just kind of like I wouldn't say trashy, but it's just lowbrow, and we try to just highbrow it just enough to where there's still no ego or too much confidence involved in it. But it's sour cream and onion chips. We use Ken and Beck's thick cut. We make our own sour cream and onion powder. And then the dip is basically like a French onion meets like a little bit of fresh horseradish in there, and then the caviar on top. And so everyone loves chips and dip. You can throw caviar or anything and make it just a little bit nicer. But all the supporting cast on that thing is what makes it. The chips by themselves you could eat.
Yeah, the chips are perfect too.
Right.
I mean, wow, she was so right. The chips and dip were phenomenal. Of course, the almonds were great. The almonds were, I can't quite remember, but beef fat. And
and we did some like Papas Bravas, kind of a spice on there. So
yeah, just phenomenal. So come for the snack menu. That'll change occasionally.
It'll change for sure. Yep.
Yep. And the cocktails may change now and then, but boy, the old fashioned. I love me even a bad old fashioned at a dive bar where they don't even know what it is.
Yep.
But whatever they give you, I'll drink. But that was just. The pictures are beautiful, and it tasted even better. And with the almonds, ridiculous.
Love it.
And then breakfast here is like an old special occasion. If you're not a breakfast person, don't sleep on the breakfast. No pun intended.
Right.
Come here for the breakfast. You do some really amazing stuff.
So there is, there's a touch of kind of like childhood or like nostalgia kind of woven into breakfast as well. Egg in a basket, toad in a hole, bird in a nest, whatever people want to call it. We punch out a slice of sourdough. We, cook an egg in there, and we finish that with Mornay and country ham and pickled mustard seeds. There's the cereal bars, which I sent out to you as well, which to me is like cereal milk in a crispy little donut form. I don't want to put, oatmeal and, 2 eggs any style, even though it's on the menu. It's kind of its own little thing. But I wanted there to be as much sort of creativity and thoughtfulness that goes into the dinner menu as there is in the breakfast menu. And so there's some pretty cool and fun dishes on there. And there you go. That's beautiful.
I was just showing one of my photos of the egg in a basket is just so beautiful. The food is beautiful, but it tastes even better. The souffle omelet.
Mm-hmm. So that's a funny one. I wanted to do souffle pancakes, like Japanese style pancakes. And I wanted to do a souffle omelet. But I didn't want to beat the egg whites to order and to basically whip up in a meringue. So I employed an ISI, like a whipped cream canister. I've never seen anyone do this before. There's one thing that I will take credit for, at least as far as I know. It's this. So we put egg whites, a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of xanthan gum into a whipped cream canister. Charge it a few times, and then that just stays in our kit, in our cooler until we need it. And so the souffle omelet, it's 2 yolks, a little bit of creme fraiche and nutmeg, and then we slowly kind of macronage or fold in these egg whites that come out of the ISI, and they come out. They're not stabilized by any means because they're not whipped like you would a normal egg white, but they hold for just long enough that you can kind of steam this omelet in the pan. And we fill that with Gruyere and roasted wild mushrooms and some broccoli sprouts. But then it comes out nice and fluffy. And it didn't work for the pancakes at all because they weren't stable enough. But yeah, that's one of the dishes that we'll keep on the menu until the time comes up, which I hope it doesn't.
Yeah, that's the joy and the challenge of some things is the menu changes occasionally, which I have great respect for. But there's some things I got to be careful not to talk too much about. But you like they mentioned the cereal milk donuts.
Yes,
those are just so much fun and so incredible.
So yeah, the idea for that was, I'm not the first person to think of how delicious cereal milk tastes, but I wanted to kind of evoke that into a donut form. And so we take a pat of choux, pipe it out like we would in eclair, but then we freeze it. And then when the order comes in, we fry these eclairs, and they puff up in the fryer, get nice and crispy. Those get dunked in white chocolate ganache, and then we roll that around in a mixture of dried strawberry, raspberry, coriander, which kind of gives you that like Fruit Loops sort of vibe going on there, cocoa nib and fouilletine. And so it has all the cereal milks kind of crashed into one little crispy donut bar.
And this is not going to be on the menu when people come, but I have to mention it. I love me chicken fried steak. I particularly like a bad chicken fried steak at a dive bar with an IPA. I think I own 5 stars in divebars.com. And if I can do places like this and dive bars, when I leave here, I'm going to the Pony Bar in Montana to write an article about that, right, which is phenomenal. It's a great dive bar. My wife hasn't seen it yet. I've been there, so we're going to show it to her. But Grand Hyatt on the island of Kauai, an incredible resort, been there. They have chicken fried steak on the menu with this mushroom rich gravy, the Alima, it's their breakfast place, terrace, just incredible. And your chicken fried steak, totally different sauce, but just as elevated and incredible. What creativity?
So that came from, we use Snake River Farms a lot for our beef, and there's, especially strip loin, there's some cuts that are just towards the end that aren't quite servable for dinner. And so obviously you can tenderize that, you pound it out, you bread it and fry it. And there's a lot of Japanese influence in what we do here as well. And so combining miso with this maple sort of red-eye gravy situation.
That was phenomenal gravy.
You get the sweets, the salty, the kind of bitterness from the coffee, and then just one sunny side up egg, and that's it. And funny enough, actually, that entire meal right there would be approved for a celiac. There's not a touch of gluten in that whatsoever. From the roux that we use for the gravy to even the miso we source is gluten-free, and the dredge we use is gluten-free as well. So like half of almost everything that we serve, kind of a tangent, but I'm proud of the fact that our popcorn chicken, for instance, is all gluten-free. Like everything that we do that involves gluten for the most part is done gluten-free for a lot of reasons. You get a lot of celiacs, a lot of gluten-frees. But sometimes some things are just better, crispier almost, when you employ rice or potato flours as opposed to, good old-fashioned flour. So,
and I appreciate the local. I had local, was it Fireweed whiskey in my old-fashioned?
Yep.
I had an white lady gin in my gin martini last night. I don't want people to think I'm an alcoholic, but then but I do love to drink.
Right.
I didn't really start drinking in my 40s, so I have a lot of catching up to do.
Absolutely.
But then normally I get chicken fried steak and IPA, but for fun I saw you had Bayern's pale ale on, and there's down there in Missoula, and I did a craft beer podcast episode with Jürgen, the founding brewer there, who grew up in Germany to open a brewery here in Missoula.
Wow,
great story. And so I had a Bayern pale ale with it, just to kind of honor him. Perfect combination. But now the panna cotta is something that's likely to be on the menu more often than not. It's going to change throughout the course of the year.
Correct.
So I want to get someday have a panna cotta quartet where I get whatever season is, I get the Christmas version.
Sure.
I get the spring one, because I'm sure you do a lot of fun things with the panna cotta at Christmas.
Yep. So that one is it's kind of a fun little take on a yogurt parfait, basically. Chamomile, when sweetened and used in that sort of application is just delicious for me. It's super floral. So we do a Greek yogurt panna cotta that we steep chamomile tea into, and then the fruit will change for sure. It's either going to be stone fruit in the summertime, berries. We'll do more apples or pears or cranberries, even if we can get those in. But the main idea is that it's yogurt parfait. That we do a pistachio streusel on. We get fresh honeycomb frames in. And we do some generous dollops of this nice kind of waxy sort of honeycomb on top as well. So it's again just kind of it's a parfait that we just amped up just a little bit.
Now I know I tease my wife that so many things are grown in Montana, and I said even the avocados, they come right out of the Paradise Valley, and then she knew I was making stuff up.
Yeah.
But so cranberries aren't big around here, but Vincent Cranberries out of Coos Bay. I mean they could get you some cranberries.
Absolutely.
So I would love to just come once a season just to check out the panna cotta, how it changes. Right. What's your of all the seasons as far as cooking? Yeah. Just what's the one that's kind of they're all good. There's not a bad season, for a good chef. But what's your favorite?
I would have to go with right now. I think especially right now in Montana. If I were somewhere else, it might be a different answer. But the weather here is different than what I'm used to. Probably what you're used to coming from the Northwest. But right now it's mid-September, and we're I think at the height of tomato season in Montana right now. That might change. The weather just started getting weird today, actually. But we get kind of all the things from summer are still kind of peaking here in Montana. But then we can start to kind of source all the winter vegetables or fall vegetables as well, kind of coming through. And so I do love spring. But I can be as cliche as possible and say I just can't wait for ramp season every single year. But I think spring's almost too easy, honestly, because those vegetables require a little bit more of a minimal sort of approach to it. But when you have kind of the tail end of summer and then fall starting to kind of peek around the corner, that's where I get excited for sure. But
a lot of room for creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. But I will say that coming out of what feels like 6 months of winter here, and to see the first morels or English peas on the list, I'm stoked. But right now is nice because I get to do peppers one night, and then I can do sunchoke or celeriac the next night, and I don't feel like I'm reaching too far into a different season to produce those or to present those. So.
Yeah, not here, but maybe other places in Montana. Yeah. Don't be surprised if the spring menu is pea shoots and peas, everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because okay, we're done now. No more beets.
I'm so tired of it.
Yeah, winter in places like here and in Minnesota and Maine, winters are long.
They are long.
People don't understand. The snow flies and then it sticks often.
Yep. And there's only so much I can do with rutabagas until you want to go insane. But no, you got to be a little more creative in winter. But I do like where we're at right now.
Speaking of winter, that next time I come, I want to come in the dead of winter when the snow, because I bet sitting looking out through that fire in the dining area in the social house and looking out to the snow.
Yeah.
I've been enough snow to know that's got to be beautiful.
It's amazing.
And you have a unique situation that open kitchen is very open. So you get to look out and see a lot of cool seasons, but at the same time, not every chef would be comfortable where everybody, now a lot of people last night, I noticed they were focused on their incredible food, but like I got to sit at the counter and watch you guys, and that's a different experience cooking in an open kitchen.
It is, and not one that I've done before. I mean, I've been in an open kitchen. Renata in Portland was open, and there was a chef's counter, but it wasn't nearly used as much as what we might see here at Greenough. But I mean, besides that grand fireplace in the center, I'd say the kitchen is a close second as far as being in the middle of the room and a center of attention. Because it's a gorgeous space. The hood, even, it's not your standard stainless steel. It's been produced and kind of manipulated in a way that it kind of blends in, but it's still a showpiece. It's just a gorgeous kitchen. But yeah, there is that bar that wraps around the kitchen, which is, where folks can sit and do dinner in a show or dinner theater, whatever kind of joke I have at the time. But not something that I was used to or necessarily excited for, but knew was going to be a component of my job there or job here, and ended up becoming my favorite part. Not necessarily just like, having folks at the bar, but being so open. We represent every dish that comes across your table for dinner. That interaction is very rewarding for me in ways that I never thought it would be.
Yeah, and one thing I really appreciate was the meticulousness. That may not even be a word, but for example, when Bella was making my cocktail, or watching her make some cocktails, and the way she handled the lemon and everything, just very peaceful, but attention to detail. Sure. And then you had an 8-top, and there was 4 people carried all of the same course out to everyone. Each of you had 2, and everybody got, and it just looked like it looked easy and natural, but that doesn't just happen without intentionality.
Sure.
And I sure did admire that. And I'm like, well, everybody's getting that nice dish at the same time. It's not going to, ice cream's not going to melt, etc. It was impressive.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Everything has got this just meticulous, a lot of attentionality, I guess, feels more than meticulous. Meticulous doesn't have the energy on it, but a lot of attentionality that just kind of elevates everything.
Right.
So very impressive.
Well, thank you.
All right. I want to talk about living here in Montana, but I almost forgot I'm a dad, I have kids. You know what that means?
Yeah.
I have dad jokes.
Right.
So you talked about peppers being a fruit. Mm-hmm. So the difference between wisdom and knowledge? Knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Mm-hmm. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
There you go. Yes.
I know it's terrible.
Love it.
So as we close, I grew up in Southern California.
Okay.
I spent some time in Olympia, some time in Minnesota. I never thought someone like Portland, the Northwest, would feel like home, but I love the Northwest. I love the rain. You went from the Seattle area, basically, to Bend, to Southern Oregon, to Portland, and now you're in Montana.
Right.
Does Montana feel like home?
It does now, and it did as soon as I got here. Before leaving for Montana, I didn't think it ever would. Not even close. It's like you said. I mean, I led Bend. Some, actually, those aren't necessarily bigger cities, but growing up around Seattle, living in Portland for so long, I felt like there was a comfort for me with those larger cities, that the hustle bustle and everything in between was something that I just kind of needed intrinsically, without even giving it a second thought. And as soon as I came out here, it was very eye-opening for sure, because I had lived kind of remotely when I was younger. La Pine, for instance, was a place I lived, and it was way out in the middle of nowhere, and I absolutely hated that as a kid. So I had those kind of thoughts, like I'm gonna hate it. I'm gonna live like in a rural area with a bunch of cows and farms, and it just didn't sound appealing to me at all. And I mean, as soon as I stepped foot out here, it was that completely changed entirely. And now I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back anywhere. I don't even want to go to Missoula at all. I don't mind just kind of being in our little bubble up here, because it's pretty nice. Yeah, and your son's 7 now. What a great place to be. I grew up on middle of nowhere, Southern California, which is hard to do, but 200 acres, 9 miles of dirt road to get to the place I grew up on. So very isolated. Yeah. And what a great place. So I kind of had that, I envisioned some of the benefits of what your son's getting now. Yep. I got outdoors all the time, and it's huge. It's so huge. Great for him. Yes. No, he's very lucky, and he'll hopefully look back and have better memories than I did of my childhood, as far as living out in the middle of nowhere. We had our fun for sure, but I think that we're making sure he experienced it the right way.
And as far as living in Montana, the times I've been even just on the outskirts of Bozeman and done something that I encourage people to come to Montana to do, or just drive a half. If you're in they don't really have metro areas in Montana, but if you're in a city, drive a half hour out at night and look up.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
The stars are insane.
That never gets lost on me, or I got off last night, and it was super clear last night. I just looked up, and it's incredible. It's coming from Portland, like you just don't see stars.
Yeah, they're not only is there the light pollution they call it, but then also it's just always overcast.
Always.
Which I like gray rained, but when it's a clear night in Montana, the stars are insane.
It's special, and it makes you realize why they call it Big Sky Country, without a doubt.
Yep.
Without a doubt.
And now for now, we talked about your favorite season for cooking. As far as living in Montana, what's one of your seasons you like the most as far as just the enjoyment in living here?
Yeah, I think besides having to wake up at like 4:30 when it's negative 20 out, I would say winter for sure. Love inclement weather, love snow, rain, overcast, gloomy. I love all that sort of thunderstorms. I love it. So I like winter. I like winter a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of fun stuff to be had in the snow, but it just feels cozy for me.
Yeah, and it's beautiful when you have wide open spaces and snow and then moonlight.
Yeah.
Oh, the brightness. It's like almost better than daylight. It's hard to explain if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, like even in Portland, when it snows, whenever it does snow, I was there. I think it was 2016, maybe 17, when we got quite a few inches, and that city was quiet. It was so quiet, eerily quiet when it snows that much. So imagine when you're out here in the middle of nowhere, it's like you could hear a twig snap from a mile away. It's pretty neat.
Excellent. Well, I'm so thrilled universe led you here.
Yeah.
Thanks to your wife's incredible insight. Yeah. And wow, just hats off to you and your team. I had just a mind-blowingly good meal. Wonderful. I'll be thinking about it for a long time, that dinner. I still think about my meals at Cayo Sponto. I still think about the dinner I had at Aragosta, and this is going to be, I'm not going to rank them, but those are like just all up there.
Let's see if we can make it a top 4 tonight. We got one more dinner to feed you. So
I know exactly. I'm gonna do my best to get through it this time. I'll pace myself mentally, but so good. Anyways, it's been a joy to have you on the podcast. I wish you all the success. The Greenough is so lucky to have you.
I appreciate that.
Because you
lucky to be here. I'll tell you that much, Joe. I'm lucky to be here.
Oh, I think they're the ones that are lucky. And just what a great people come to this resort, and then they get a world-class culinary experience that matches the beauty and the experience. All right, it was a joy to have you on the podcast. Cheers.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.